Alright, I want to take a little bit to talk about this common notion of bad videos, or what people would commonly view as a bad video. And why you shouldn't necessarily siphon what you make through that standard. Like, if you make a video, and even if it's not up to your standard, if it's not up to the commonly held standard, if it's not up to what other people like, what you like, it should be released anyway, because someone will like it. Unless your channel is just under extremely strict standards and you really want to grow your audience, then it's probably a bad idea to just release whatever's on your mind for the sake of it. But if you're like me and you don't care about those things, you should just release literally whatever. Who cares? Everything should be out there. Absolutely everything. Because the people who like the videos that they like, they'll watch those videos, and then the people who also don't like those other videos just won't watch those other videos. They'll just watch the things that they care about. And like I don't think people realize just how little effort it takes to click off something that you don't want to watch. Like, I used to get into this habit where I was really obsessed with everything that I put on the channel had to be pristine, it had to have a nice thumbnail, it had to have subject matter that I thought complemented the overall narrative of the channel. I don't care about any of that anymore. None of it matters to me because I realize that the audience that's on here, by and large, don't care either. They just watch the things that they want to watch. And if they don't want to watch the majority of what I'm producing, then they just unsubscribe. Who cares? It's one guy. Why should I be catering my entire content to just that one guy? And the point then follows as well. When it comes to videos that you want to see, if you're only going to be making stuff strictly for yourself that you would personally enjoy, then you're not going to ever get past the beginner phase. Because when you start out, you're not making content that just you strictly enjoy, because the content that you're making is bad. And so the only way to get past that beginner stage is by action. It's by doing, as I just said in the last vlog that I posted, failing as much as humanly possible. And so, why does it matter so much whether you like the content that's being put on your channel when ultimately the content that's being put out is a form of practice? It's always going to be you doing more so you can eventually reach a broader goal in mind, make something that you've wanted to make for however long that you do enjoy quite a lot. Ultimately, the process of doing it is going to be far more important than the product that's produced. And in the case of the product that's produced, the people who view it are going to decide whether they like it. It's just a matter of finding someone who eventually does. As long as one person enjoyed that video, the goal of the video has been fulfilled. It fulfilled its place by making someone happy and entertaining them for however long. People are obsessed with this like numbers game of my videos have to reach as many people as humanly possible, they have to be as good as humanly possible, when that just doesn't matter. You just need a small audience of people who care enough about you to consistently come back and to stay along with you, even if you're producing really weird stuff at the time. This paranoid idea of who am I and who am I selling my work to should not be a factor, because you're not a salesperson, or at least I hope you're not. You should just be authentically producing as much as you can until eventually it finds its niche, it finds its market, it finds the people who want to watch content that's like that. They're out there. You just have to be willing to share your work or to make videos for people who would theoretically share the work. It happens eventually in time. All you really need is 50 people, 40, 30 people who are just going to come back and comment, and that's all you need. Those are all the people you need, because they care enough about your work in order to see it through, in order to pay attention to it. And, I remember in 2018, really it was a year ago actually, I made this video, I think it was called What is the Point? where it was either What is the Point or it was YouTube is My Medicine. It was one of those two videos. I think I kind of talked about the same ideas in both of them. These videos were produced a year ago. Was the idea that as long as there's some comments on my channel, at least a few, even if there weren't any, I'd probably keep doing it just with a little bit less frequency. As long as there's some comments, that's enough motivation to keep going, because for every single comment that exists, it represents a human being. And so every time I see a comment, I know that there's like a human face tied to that, that there's someone on the other side of the screen that they had to literally sit down and type out their response to the video. And so because of that extra layer of abstraction that goes beyond simply just seeing the views, because, views can be bots, once you see those comments in reality, that they're tied to an internet personality, it makes you feel a bit better about the stuff that you're producing. And so as long as I know even two or three of those human beings exist, the like bar is a similar thing, although I don't think it's just as impactful as comments are. The like bar definitely helps. As long as I see at least a few of those people exist, then it's gonna be enough to push me forward to keep doing this. Like, I would be sad if all of my viewers just disappeared, but ultimately I'd keep doing this anyway until eventually I could either find more viewers or just keep the people who stay around, because that's really the point of this. It's to continue producing and producing and making what I produce belong to somebody, making it enjoyed by somebody. Maybe it doesn't belong to me, but it might belong to good old Joe down the street who has a very particular interest in guys staring at their walls. I don't know. But it's going to mean something to somebody. They're out there. They may not be in the comment section yet. They may not see your work just yet, but they certainly exist. And that's what matters, is that everything should be produced and released because it is going to appeal to someone. Someone out there is going to be appealed to by your work. You just have to find them. You just have to wait around until they exist. You just have to keep practicing and honing your voice until eventually your voice is worth listening to by someone. And which is probably now, like there's probably someone out there who would listen to you in your current state, but because broad tastes exists and the boogie pop dichotomy exists, what you're most likely going to get is having to tap into at least some level of broad technical energy, something that, is widely accepted by the public consciousness as being good in terms of speaking, eventually sort of striving for that ideal, or at least making what's very, very niche and boogie in the best way that you possibly can. And so, there's all these different dynamics going on, of improvement, of trying to just find the people who do care about these improvements in the first place. But ultimately, it's all going to come back to the fact that there is at least one. There is at least one guy who is autistic enough to care about the same autistic things that I do, or who is autistic enough to care about the autistic things that I don't. And so all of it should be on the table. Even if I find it to be a demonstrable, horrendous, abhorrent failure of mine, it should exist, if not for individual enjoyment of people who are watching the content, then at least, at the very least, to show that I, as a creator, am a flawed enough human being to continue making mistakes in spite of the vast improvements that I've made over time. Because it still happens. I still make videos that I'm not necessarily satisfied with, but I produce them and release them anyway, because that's the point. Because there are still mistakes to be made, there are still flaws to be ironed out, and that is a good thing. That's what people don't realize, is that every single failure that you make is just going to be another step towards the ultimate peak that you're reaching. And even by the time that you reach that next peak, you're going to be making more mistakes on the way. It isn't a linear battle in which you fight the boss and then you get all the girls and you win. There's always going to be a continual cycle of more and more bosses to be fought, more and more NPCs, small enemies attacking you. And even though you're at level 200 now after 10 or so years, you've got 1,000 more levels to go if you really want to. And that's what's really beautiful about it. is that there's always more that you can do. There's always bigger peaks and valleys that you can reach. And some days you're just going to feel like shit and produce a bad video. These are mistakes that are continuous. They might, end up being less so as you go on. For example, I did not used to be able to just rant like this from the hip as much as I do, but I kept doing it until those flaws were eventually ironed out to make it to where I could do it as much as humanly possible. But I could still do more. And so that phrase ends up being a bit meaningless because I say as much as humanly possible, but I know that there's always more that can be done. And so it's really one of those things where, like, I'm gonna make mistakes. No matter what level of development I'm at, I'm making less than I did before, but the mistakes still exist, which means there are still things to improve upon. And so it's always ticking up. You're going to fall down a few times, you're going to go down a few times in chart wise, but you can still shoot up like a star. Hey, you can still shoot up, as much as humanly possible. I don't know why I keep using that turn of phrase again and again in these motivational videos, or just in videos in general. I have these little tics of language. I don't know if you notice them or not, but there's certain words that I use a lot in these videos, or just phrases, idioms, that I use a lot, and I don't know why I do that. Um, I think it's because I watch these back, is that when I watch these back, I did that for a while just to get used to the sound of my own voice, but now I do it as sort of like a proofreading process of thinking, okay, how are people going to react to this? Or how am I going to be able to respond to comments? I listen to the videos back. I think maybe because I listen to them, and I make so much that eventually I end up getting into this feedback loop of hearing my own turns of phrase and then just using them again because I've heard them so many times. I need to have more variance in my speech in order to uh, uh, I don't know, shake things up. That's another mistake right there, is that it's constantly noticing these little improvements that you can make, and um, that should be a process. The people viewing the videos should use that as motivation. That's really the point of that, is that, yeah, it exists, and it can exist in order to inspire someone else to do more with their own life and more with their own time. Because you can sit and you can look and be like, this guy is exactly like me in the sense that he keeps failing, but he keeps doing it in spite of it, so I can do it too. And so it isn't just that there's going to be an appeal for everything that you do. There's For someone, there's also going to be an immense amount of inspiration and motivation that can be derived from the existence of that work. And so, yeah, there's going to be a tractor otaku who likes your vlog, your 30-minute vlog of you just walking around on a farm, rambling into a camera, pretty badly. But hey, they like it because there's a tractor in the video, and because I don't know, maybe you look like their mom or something, and they comment about how I don't know, what's a bad anime, Erased, how Erased, and what's another bad show, No Game No Life. They're Oh, No Game No Life is the greatest show, and you remind me so much of these characters and stuff. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Point is, art is pretty subjective, and so am I.